Welcome back, Tribe. Got an interesting one here from AJ Plus. It says, I make $20 an hour and I'm still homeless. Here we go.
These people are struggling to find a home while being surrounded by billionaires.
Pago 1,700 para este. Es Jackson y es la renta muy cara.
Bro, she's paying $1,700 a month for this shit. Imagine what PPD was saying on that previous podcast where they were trying to estimate what people need to be paying at a college and what they could afford. They were quoting figures like $1,400. Ridiculous.
Jackson Hole is known as a playground for the rich. It's been home to former Vice President Dick Cheney and movie stars like Harrison Ford and Sandra Bullock. And today, Teton County, where Jackson Hole is located, is the richest county in the U.S. And it's also the county with the highest income inequality.
I've been at the homeless shelter for a while. It's intimidating. It's not what the rich person wants to hear.
There's a housing crunch in Jackson Hole.
There are apparently 2,000 folks on the housing waiting list.
You know, the pay for the area, it's, in the upper 20s per hour. It's great money. Where's the live?
But even in a place desperate for more housing, there's small but vocal opposition to affordable housing projects.
This is crooked and you know it. And I want you to know we're going to sue you. We are going to sue to stop this.
We're in Wyoming to learn how the working class is struggling to survive in Jackson Hole and why the least populated state in the U.S. has a housing shortage.
Wow. Beautiful.
Patrick Morris has lived in Jackson Hole since 2013. He's currently experiencing homelessness.
There is a daily fee to stay here. Currently, it's $15 a day.
Patrick is staying at the Good Samaritan Mission, the only shelter for the unhoused in all of Teton County. Currently, Patrick is also working as its culinary director.
There are probably 15 to 20 people a night.
Bro, this guy doesn't look like, when you think of homeless person, you're thinking like drug addicted, you're thinking mental health issues. There's something severely wrong with these people. That's how they end up unhoused on the streets, right? This is a normal dude. He makes $20 an hour. He's homeless. We have a housing crisis in the United States. They don't want to talk about it. Instead, you get gaslit and told, stop buying your Starbucks, start saving your money, stop paying so much for rent, be more humble, find somewhere cheaper. Where, bro? My man here makes $20 an hour. There are no places he can afford.
7 nights a week. There's times where I serve 40 people a night.
Patrick says he's been through what he calls the Jackson Shuffle.
Between 2013 to present day, I've probably lived in about 15 different places in Jackson.
And for most Jackson residents, that much moving isn't uncommon.
Yeah, rent gets raised, 1,000% with no notice, and can't afford it. There's no regulations here in Jackson.
Like many workers in Jackson, Patrick's previous housing was tied to his employment. Companies have started providing housing for employees because they know rent is so expensive.
See how dystopian that sounds? You are only able to afford a place to live because it's tied to your job providing you housing. How fucking wild does that sound to you? Our jobs already were tied to healthcare because it's so expensive. The only way you could have good healthcare was with a job. Now they're tying housing with your job. You will own nothing and you will be happy. Oh, you got fired? Oh, you lost your job? Oh, company's downsizing? Well, you just don't lose work. You're going to lose a home. Wow, dude.
But that quickly became a problem because when Patrick wanted to quit, he became homeless too.
Getting overworked, and they wouldn't promote somebody else to take off some of the, work that they were putting on me. I was working 70 hours a week, not getting paid overtime. So I told him, I said,
you heard that? I'm working 70 hours a week. I'm not getting paid overtime. This is why self-employment is the only way. This shit is wild, dude. You got to get a skill, maybe go into the trades, something, learn to use your hands, become like a maestro at something, woodworking, whatever. It's like an example. I know a couple people that have gotten businesses off the ground just working solo, no overhead by themselves. They rejuvenate these old pieces that they'll go buy or that people are leaving out in the street. On those like Craigslist class fields, like people got old dressers for sale and it's like getting rid of it for like $30, $50. And they'll go and they'll completely redo the dresser and make it like have a custom look, right? Repaint it, resand, refinish everything, add to the design, right? Because these guys are good with woodworking. They're like top A grade carpenters and they're using a bit of artistry to upsell that stuff. And lo and behold, you'll sell that same dresser for like $150, $200 once it's all said and done. I mean, people are finding very creative ways to make money. Self-employment is the only way. I mean, it's not an easy journey, but it sure as hell beats 100% slavery, staying where you are working for a corporation. And housing and rent around you grows at such an exponential rate because of the de-dollarization, the debasing of our dollar that's happening, that you're going to end up making $20+ an hour, but you need a company that you work for to subsidize your housing. How do you quit then? How do they maintain control over you and end the turnover rate that they have? Some of these companies have insane turnover rates. I know, we'll tie housing to the job. We'll make it so expensive for them to leave that it can't be a thought that even pops up in their mind. This is modern day slavery. Crazy.
Look, it's not working out. I'm getting overworked. And they said, well, you can't stay in the employee housing if you don't work the hours we tell you to work. And they basically made me homeless.
So he came here to the Good Samaritan Mission.
About 40 some beds or say. There's 5 female dorms upstairs, and then the rest are men's dorms.
Currently, the Good Samaritan only has space for single men and women. Right now, unhoused families have no shelter in all of Teton County. The Good Samaritan is a working shelter, which means that everyone who stays here long-term has to work full-time. But that's not difficult. There's no shortage of jobs in Jackson Hole, and wages here start at $20 an hour. But in Jackson, the wealth inequality is so vast that $20 an hour is not a livable wage. So how was it that this mountain town became home to the ultra-wealthy in the first?
And this is spelling doom for the rest of America. Consider these guys ahead of the curve of what's coming down the pipeline for every other average American. Again, guys, with inflation, with cost of living rises, this scenario is coming to a town near you.
First place, this land was originally home to the Eastern Shoshone and Shoshone-Bannock tribes. With the rise of the fur trade in the 1800s, the two tribes were pushed onto smaller reservations, and white settlers started building homesteads. When Teton County was formed in 1921, 30 years after Wyoming became a state, it was actually too sparsely populated and the land deemed not valuable enough for it to meet county requirements. But then in the 1950s, Jackson got its own commercial airport, and a decade later, it got a ski resort. That, combined with the expansion of the Grand Teton and Yellowstone National Parks, brought a lot of tourists. But those visits to this majestic natural beauty then led to permanent residency for the American wealthy for 2 reasons: taxes and technology. There's no other way to say this. Jackson Hole, Wyoming is a tax shelter. The state collects no income tax or capital gains tax, there's no tax on corporations, and the current sales tax is 6%. The Valley has attracted many investment bankers from New York and other states to relocate and enjoy the outdoors. The second big reason Jackson Hole became wealthy is because of technology. Bankers were telecommuting and taking conference calls from the ski slopes here even before the pandemic. And now as work-from-home policies at many companies have expanded, it's caused even more people to relocate to Jackson Hole. Today, Teton County has the highest concentration of wealth per household by a large margin, nearly $100,000 more than the next county on the list. But that wealth isn't distributed equally, especially when it comes to Jackson's immigrant population.
Esta es mi cocina. Es muy pequeña, pero es suficiente para 2 personas como mi pequeño hijo y yo.
Tom, repeat it. They don't.
Ligia Galeano is a single mom who lives in Jackson with her 8-year-old son, Damian. She came from El Salvador 6 years ago to be with her son's father, but they're no longer together.
Acá tenemos un pequeño televisor donde nosotros compartimos momentos mirando películas o programas divertidos.
It's not a large place, but Ligia says she's very grateful for it and her current landlord, because she didn't always have a place to stay.
Estuve buscando vivienda por un año. Viví en la sala de las casas de algunas amistades. Viví en un cuarto no confortable. Viví en algo muy desagradable. En algún momento pensé en que tenía que vivir en mi carro por unos días porque yo no sabía dónde iba a estar.
According to recent figures, Jackson is more than 20% Latino. Ligia says the housing situation is much harder for Latinos because the majority of them are undocumented and because many don't have savings.
Es muy difícil porque tenemos que ahorrar por lo menos $7,000 para agarrar un lugar donde vivir, porque tenemos que dar el depósito el primer mes, el último mes, y no estamos hablando de $1,000, estamos hablando de más de $1,000, entonces es algo muy alto en costo para la vivienda.
Currently, Ligia works at a party rental store. Ligia has working papers, but that means it's hard for her to leave Wyoming.
Tengo que hacer un trámite muy grande para hacerle saber a la corte que yo estoy moviéndome del lugar y explicar por qué razón yo me estoy moviendo a otro lado.
Plus, she says that Jackson is a great place for her son to grow up.
No quiero regresar a El Salvador. Yo tuve un viaje muy difícil y muy largo. circunstancias muy feas y desagradables que yo pasé. Quiero que él crezca aquí y que él tenga un mejor estudio, un mejor futuro en este lugar.
But her biggest worry is time. Her lease is until April, but she doesn't know if she'll be able to renew it.
Algunas veces él ha despertado por las noches preocupado y asustado, diciendo, mamá, cuando nos digan que nos tenemos que ir de esta casa, ¿a dónde vamos a ir?
Currently, the U.S. is in the midst of a national housing shortage. According to Freddie Mac estimates, the country needs 3.8 million new homes to keep up with demand. And while there's a lot of construction happening in Jackson Hole, it's a type of...
size of, yeah, and this is what we were saying in the video before. They're not building, quote, starter homes. They're just affordable homes. Call them what they are. Build affordable homes. Why? Because there's no profit. There's no money in building affordable homes. You want to build these giant fucking luxury mansions because you make a ton of money on the markup. That shit's insane, dude. Greed is insane.
Construction that's going to make the problem even worse. The only people who can afford to live here are millionaires. And the influx of all this wealth has even caused small homes like this 2-bedroom, 2-bath to be listed at $1.5 million.
Oh my
While
God.
Wyoming
Are you kidding me? Listen, coming to a city near you. This is $1.5 million. Oh my God, dude. Look at the wealth inequality. It's spreading throughout the rest of America. This is the most wealth inequality we've had since tracking this shit. This is peering into the future of what's going to be the next 10, 15, 20 years across the entirety of the United States. Holy crap, dude. That is $1.5 million. I thought Toronto was bad, right? We were seeing some shit in Canada that was looking horrendous, but this takes the cake. I bet you when this house was built, whatever it cost was probably like $37,000.
$million. While Wyoming may be the least populous state, Teton County doesn't have a lot of empty land to build more housing. Jackson is surrounded by Grand Teton National Park, and about 40% of Yellowstone National Park takes up a big chunk of Teton County too. Jackson has a worker shortage. Businesses are struggling to find workers because they can't afford to live here.
Pay them.
Proposals for small affordable housing projects have had a lot of opposition.
We have very few items of heritage left in this community. I'm adamantly opposed to giving up 1 square foot of the rodeo grounds, fairground.
This is a recording of a public meeting about a new 48-unit affordable housing project in Jackson. The project is looking to build housing next to the town's rodeo and fairgrounds. And while the actual apartments won't be built on the rodeo grounds, the construction will mean that a multi-use exhibit hall will be relocated onto the fairgrounds next door.
I came in 1977.
Of course, bro. Rich people don't want poor people around them. Why are you going to bring in all these poor people? Oh, we need these very same poor people, by the way, to work at all those little shops and be our servers and shit and come clean our homes and, trim our grass and all that stuff. Landscape. No. But they can't live next to us. They need to magically appear to do their jobs and then magically disappear and fuck right off so we could go enjoy being rich. NIMBYs, dude.
And since 1977, we have had a housing problem. It's never going to get fixed. It's never going to be what the town needs. What the town needs is our fair and rodeo.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
There's a reason that one of Wyoming's nicknames is the Cowboy State. The people in town take the rodeo seriously and don't want it affected at all.
I'm going to dedicate myself to making sure whoever votes for this does not get reelected.
Even after the public comments and spirited town halls, the Jackson Town Council voted to approve the housing project. But construction won't start until 2023.
That's not a good sound. Not what you want to hear.
Nikki Kaufman moved to Jackson Hole 6 years ago.
I came to be a ski bum, and I worked at a ski shop and I worked at a taco shop, and I thought I'd be here 1 year and then move to a city in New York, San Francisco. And I fell in love with the community. I fell in love with the people.
Nikki is now organizing with the local nonprofit Shelter JH and asking residents to vote for candidates who are for more affordable housing.
Hi, Katie. This is Nikki. I am calling on behalf of Shelter JH tonight.
Hi, Keenan. This is Libby calling on behalf of Shelter JH.
My name is Miles. I'm calling on behalf of Shelter Jackson Hole.
Shelter JH has actually endorsed candidates this year. So if you want to see who we think the housing champions you should vote for are, you can visit our website. It's shelterjh.org.
I have been directly affected by the housing emergency here in Jackson. I moved 7 times in 6 years until I finally would say I was pushed out. I ended up actually moving to Victor, Idaho, which is about a 45-minute drive from Jackson over a pretty steep mountain pass. Jackson Hole is a playground for the wealthy. There is absolutely no denying it. And it would be gatekeeping to say that not anyone can come here and take advantage of how incredible this place is.
Beautiful.
The problem is the disconnect between the new people moving in and the issues at hand. People want to go out to their favorite fancy restaurant, and then they get upset when their food takes 2.5 hours and they cannot get from A to B in terms of, I'm waiting for my food more often than I'm not. I wonder why that is. I'm going to go back to my multi-million-dollar home with my housekeeper and my lawnmower and my yoga teacher in-house, and everything is hunky-dory.
People really have yoga teachers in-house?
Yes, and facialists. And yeah, I did not know wealth until I moved here.
So how do you combat all this wealth to build more affordable housing? The next morning, I met up with Jessica Sell Chambers, who sits in the Jackson Town Council.
In 2016, when I first really jumped into the political arena, it was because the housing situation was getting so bad.
Jessica is not up for re-election this year, but she's been pushing for more affordable housing in Jackson.
Your rent's increasing by 100%, and you can expect it to increase another 100%
There you go.
by the end of the year. So it's like your rent goes from $2,000 to $6,000.
Huh? Your rent goes from 2 to 6? Huh? In the span of a year? Explain that shit. Oh my God, man. What the? How do you even tell somebody? Like, this is just exacerbated in this town, of course, but on some level, every American is feeling this, and it's going in this horrendous direction for the entire nation. What do you tell young people? What do you tell old people? What do you tell anybody in the middle? Anybody that's making less than, like, God, dude, 100,000 isn't enough anymore. Most people are making like between 30 to 40,000. What do you tell these people? By the way, dog, rent, that 2,000 you're barely scraping by on, that's going to be 6 at the end of the year. So I'm going to need you to come up with the extra 4. Don't care how you do it, because you're out if you don't. American dream, what? Excuse me, how the fuck is this fair?
You can't go anywhere.
Jessica voted to approve the controversial 48-unit affordable housing project near the rodeo ground.
Bootstraps,
the biggest hurdle to affordable housing here was NIMBYism, which stands for not in my backyard.
There they are.
I think a lot of people don't realize how insidious NIMBYism can be. They don't think that they're NIMBYs, but really what it comes down to is everybody has some creative reason, some very important reason why they can't have affordable housing in their backyard or near
Poor
them.
people.
And in Jackson's case,
don't just call it affordable housing. Call it what it is. I don't want dirty pores around me. That's what it is, bro. That rich people don't want anybody not rich around them. That's why they live in gated communities. That's why they're disgusted and do not ever allow any affordable housing to be built anywhere near their vicinity. They don't even want the poor people's kids going to their schools. They gatekeep their schools. They gatekeep their jobs. They gatekeep their entire lives from you. A rich American is living a completely different existence that's isolated from the average everyday working American. You have no idea until you run in these circles just how fucking insane life is for somebody that's well off. It's crazy, man.
It was the rodeo. But Jessica says the other big thing standing in Jackson's way is state politics. Jackson is a liberal town in a very conservative state. And because of the way the government is structured, the town council is limited in what it can do to tackle the affordable housing crisis.
We are very limited by state statute as to how we can generate revenue. We have access to the most regressive form of tax, which is sales tax. We can do up to 7%, and of that, 4% goes to the state, and that's what they collect and keep. And any increase that we put forward has to be approved by voters.
There's so much wealth here in Jackson, but it's frustrating to see that the wealth can't be used to build more affordable housing. In the meantime, Jessica knows that she has to do her part to create more housing for Jackson. So she and her family are using the extra space they have in their basement to house residents.
There's a woman with her 2 sons, and they had nowhere to go. And this was kind of unfinished when we got it. I was like, well, if we can put this together somehow. And we got in here and we painted walls and we put the floor in, and the kitchen and the bathroom weren't here yet because we didn't have the money to do that yet. So we kind of shared a home in some ways. Yeah, they were here for 9 months, 10 months, and then they were able to find another place.
But some residents in Jackson haven't been lucky enough to find a home. Back at the shelter, we met up with Blaze McDonald. Blaze grew up in Jackson. He had hopes of being a professional skier, but now works blue-collar jobs.
Well, I was camping outside for the summer, and that's, one thing you have to do when you're in Jackson is camp in your truck, but sold my truck and I had nowhere to live.
Blaze works as a garbage collector in Jackson and collects the trash for all the wealthy households in town, but he still doesn't make enough to pay rent anywhere.
$20 an hour at 8 hours a week, $800 a paycheck,
Now Blaze is without a car. He says that most people don't realize he can't just get up and leave and move to a cheaper area.
Oh, gosh, it takes money to leave. It takes money to go places. And sure, gosh, I'd love to go to Montana or something.
But even if he wanted to leave, Blaze says his family would still be in Jackson.
My mom and 2 sisters live here. They're homeless too. They're moving.
What?
They're homeless just like me.
It was hard seeing such disparity. In a place known for beauty, Jackson sure did have an ugly underside. It's here in Grand Teton National Park where American photographer Ansel Adams captured iconic landmarks of the American West. And it's here that the idea of American conservation and environmentalism is championed. But that's come at the expense of people like Blaze and Patrick, and families like Lihia's, who are trying to build a new life here. This land is supposed to be preserved for all Americans to enjoy. But what does it mean for the US when only the wealthy have access to nature?
Unreal. The comments have to be interesting. At age 54, I got laid off. Plant closed. I was highly skilled employee. My hourly rate was $43 per hour. The same day I was let go, I got a call. The president of another company offered me a job, $20 per hour. The plan for years was to retire at 55. He knew damn well that he was taking advantage of me. I didn't say a word. I had to stick with the plan. I spent exactly 1 year there to the day. Every dollar I made went into retirement account. On my last day, I didn't say a word and walked out. I heard they try to recruit different people from all over the country to replace me. I was very good at what I did. People from all over the country knew my work, and that president knew it. I got the last laugh. After 39 years, I was done. Holy shit, I used to make $24 an hour and was still homeless. When people say homelessness is not a personal failure, it's an institutional failure, this is what they mean. Anything below $25 an hour is poverty in California. $25 an hour, you have roommates and barely making it. It's crazy how the world has changed. If you're a working class, Jackson Hole isn't a livable city. Leave the rich to fend for themselves. They'll never fend for themselves, don't you hear? They got facialists living over there, dude. Someone's just nutting all over their face. And they're getting paid for it. Little freaks. You know, those rich people are freaks. You got those helpers locked in there. The American dream can only be achieved 2 ways, being rich or being asleep. Sadly, all of America is becoming unaffordable for many working class Americans. Now there's a big exodus of Americans moving to more affordable countries. See, man, this passport bro stuff, we call it passport bro. It's just a digital nomad, expat lifestyle, expatriating out of the United States. Because when a shit box like that one house goes for 1.5 million, you know we're headed in the wrong direction. That shouldn't even be a thing in the market at all. It's a complete clown show that's even happening today, and it's only getting worse. Again, guys, we just cut a 50-point basis on interest rates. Okay, that's 0.5%. And the way the Treasury yields responded was by going up in interest. Okay, Treasury yields got more expensive. It's going to cost the government more to pay all the money it's borrowed. Typically, when the Fed lowers interest rates, they're doing it so they can stimulate the market into spending, into consuming. They're making loans more affordable. They want businesses to take out loans, expand. They're trying to kickstart the economy by lowering interest rates. At the same time, it causes inflation because commodities, stocks, everything starts to pump because lower interest rates means more dollars in the economy floating around, dollars getting debased. It makes more sense because the interest rates are too low. Why lend money? Why not put it in an asset like gold, commodities, anything with higher returns? If the interest rates are low, there's no point in holding on to dollars. And we're doing this to combat an already horrendous job market that we have with a revision of upwards of 1 million jobs. They revised down, So we have 1 million plus jobs less than they initially reported. Americans are priced out of absolutely everything, including owning homes. There's weird shit going on with the broader economy, guys, if you're keeping in touch with all the financial markets, everything that's going on. And it's not just an American problem. This is global. The domino effect is happening. This baby's coming home to roost soon. We live in a debt bubble. Our economies are debt driven. It's fugazi money, dude. This all is a charade. This is all fake. No wonder gold has hit a new all-time high and will continue climbing, most likely. People are flocking towards safe haven. And the government the market at least, is already trying to price in another 50-point basis cut in November that the Fed is going to discuss and looks likely to happen again. If the bond yields go up again, that signals that investor confidence in the Fed, in the broader economy, is absolutely shit. That means, dude, saying that's a bad signal is an understatement. When the Fed cuts interest rates, yields should be going down along with them, not up. That means no one's buying the bullshit the Fed's selling. Protect yourself, guys, because this is going to get a lot worse. I'm telling you, we're on the precipice of something huge that's going to make 08, 09 look like fucking The Pee Wee leagues. Wild what's happening. Ay, ay, ay. Anyways, take care, everybody. Join us on some of the calls. Check out the second channel. Links are on the description below if you're interested. Shirts like this help support the channel as well. Get ready to bat down the hatches because, geez Louise, man, all economic indicators are pointing to the house of cards falling. See you guys on the next one.